Hi, I'm Benjamin Angwin, and today I'm asking, what has happened to Welsh nationalism? Because that's actually what I came to this country for. Well, the Welsh language, and to help create, do my part to rebuild and create a Welsh-speaking Wales. That's what I came here for. That's my passion. I want that part of, I'm part Cornish, and I want the Brythonic and Gaulish, that civilization, that original civilization that was a superpower across the Iron Age in Central and Northwest Europe. I want that to survive, that grandeur fused with the glory of Rome. That is the civilization I want to keep. But over the years I've found that Welsh nationalism doesn't actually want to keep that civilization. And what's happened? And after I'll explain what happened, what now? So I'm going to go through each of the leaders of Plaid Cymru, quick fire, as much as I can, and explain the pivotal points. How did this ideology shift? And how do we get to the point today where most of these people are aligning with people who want to destroy the West, who want to kill people for their Jewish religion, who, I'm not even going to say some of the other things because my video might get banned on YouTube, but siding against our Western civilization and our military allies. What happened? So let's start. Plaid Cymru was founded in the wake of World War I, and this is important because World War I really was the point at which our civilization had won. We essentially ruled the world. Our enemies, as I said in other videos, were beginning to adopt our way of life even subconsciously. It was over, and then we made sure it was over by killing each other needlessly in a horrific war, World War I, in which European powers within the same great Western civilization killed each other over nonsense. And out of that came a great disillusionment, and people wanted to fill the vacuum. Plaid Cymru was one of these parties that formed in the wake of this catastrophe. And I get it. I mean, World War I was horrific. It would jolt you out of your comatose syrup senses. And Plaid Cymru was founded in 1925. Now I'm going to go through the leaders rather than purely the ideology, because that really is what has shifted the ideology, the leadership. The first leader, now there were three founders, but the first leader was Lewis Valentine. Now, he was a Christian nationalist. One thing that you see over and over again in this period is the Gwynfor, the orchard, defending it against pigs defiling it, defending it against Anglicization, defending your inheritance from the English. It is a Christian nationalism. Staunchly so, staunchly small c, conservative. Now, there were moments and flickerings of socialist views, absolutely, but socially it was very, very conservative. And in this period, with Lewis Valentine under the influence of Saunders Lewis, there was this word, perchentiaeth. So, Lewis Valentine was leader 1925 to 1926. And he believed in this perchentiaeth, which is essentially perchentiaeth. It means in Welsh, the translation would be something like home ownershipness, the essence of home ownership. So this was not socialist, but it was distributionalist. It was decentralized. Decentralized ownership. Everyone could own their own house. A nation of many villages, craftsmen, being able to support themselves, not capitalist in the strict sense, monopolies, men of business, executives, they're not that kind of thing, and not the English version of aristocracy, in which someone way above lords over the people, like with this paternalistic sense. No, there was an aristocracy in this vision, but it was localized, of Ro, the local area. How far can you walk and it still be the same folk culture, right? That's a bro. And it believed in an aristocracy for each bro, in a sense. Men who naturally rose up, but not lording over other areas. Hyper-localization. Decentralized aristocracy. I like this, it's incredibly Welsh. The next year Saunders Lewis came in, and this guy was eccentric. He took Perchentiaeth to a further extreme. And one thing I really like about this man is he had a natural aristocratic sense. He was accused of elitist views, but in a country that had been so deeply peasantized and its upper class physically removed and in many cases abolished, its royal lines cut down, we needed, and we still need, some kind of upper crust. You cannot have a functioning society without some type of hierarchy and some kind of governing class. You just cannot function without it. Saunders Lewis was an aristocrat by instinct, and I like this about the man. He was a bit crazy, but he understood that basic truth, and he attached himself onto France and Catholicism explicitly because he knew another truth. We need to detach ourselves from this Protestantism that is essentially English in character. Nonconformist chapel culture, yes, it gives us a national consciousness in a conservative sense, but its root is still the English Reformation. And Saunders Lewis got that. So he turned to Catholicism. You know, I've turned to Judaism, and I like Saunders Lewis for this. He understands you need spiritual, religious independence. Your own civilizational structure for prayer and religious and communal involvement. And Catholicism it could give you that. But the Welsh are not going to become Catholic. And they just thought he was a bit weird. You know, I don't expect you to become Jewish. I just don't. And so when he actually ran for an election later, after his leadership ended in 1939, he was handsomely defeated and withdrew from political life in a bit of a resentful mood. He was a moody man. But in his time, there were elements of socialist views, but it was toned down. The elements of the glory of our civilization and the Welsh language being a normalized medium, normalizing it, and not being worshipping the English culture. That was his emphasis, and that shaped Plaid Cymru in the time. Now after him, in 1939, you had John Edward. This was a Christian philosopher, a brilliant guy, actually. And he was small c Christian nationalist. Small c conservative, big C Christian nationalist. He didn't want to change much. He didn't tinker too much with the structure that had been handed to him. But after him, in 1943, only for 2 years, this guy, Abby Williams, he didn't leave much of an impression on me when I read about him, but he had something distinct. He had been a member of the Independent Labour Party, and from this point, the middle of the Second World War, yes, there had been socialist undertones. I mean, Lewis Valentine was the son of a quarryman, subjected to left-wing views often, or influenced by them. But with Abby Williams here, the party, Plaid Cymru is shifting a bit to the left. There's a clear tilt toward economically left-wing views here. And so 1945, I mean, this is a catastrophe. 1945 has seen a rupture in the moral consensus. The Christian nationalist past is seen as bad, it's seen as evil. Nationalism itself is seen as some kind of sin. I mean, it's weird. Saunders Lewis, by the way, had, leading up to the war and during the war, been a conscientious objector and saw the First World War as being, or the Second World War as being a continuation of the First. And Plaid Cymru actively, conscientiously objected, like they wouldn't support the war effort against the Nazis. This is a stain. I consider that, I mean, it's just disgusting, in my view. But I get why Saunders Lewis and the followers of him later were doing that. They were trying to create a wall of separation, a distinction that Wales was different somehow. But it was the wrong way. However, it created that as the main pillar of action by Plaid Cymru during the war, World War II. We shouldn't just say the war for World War II, there are other ones, and it doesn't define who we are now. The next leader, Gwynfor Evans, he was a staunch pacifist, and this ethos of pacifism, militant pacifism, fed directly into him, and he would run Plaid Cymru for 36 years, 1945 to 1981. And this man is a monolith, a giant of the late 20th century in Wales, and certainly the man who I think has done most in the history of the 20th century. I have to remember we're not in that century anymore. The 20th century, who, without which we would not have devolution. We just wouldn't have our own Senedd. I don't even think Sir Fynwy, Monmouthshire, would even be part of Wales. That would have been stolen from us and absorbed into England, like Shropshire was centuries ago. And he did something quite good, Gwynfor Evans, despite his militant pacifism. He did something that I don't think anyone has done since Hywel Dda, Hywel the Good, in the 10th century. He fused or united the two competing ends of our culture. He was able to tap into the Christian nationalism through this pacifism and in a Christian justification. So he was able to capture the conservative part of Welsh culture. But then that same pacifism appealed to the radical side. I don't want to say progressive, that's kind of a bad word, but the radical side, the liberal side, that appealed to this pacifism. And so this militant pacifism, he was forced to accentuate it and speed it and have it continue in strength. You know, the Vietnam War era, staunch pacification. There was a civil war in Nigeria with the Niger River Delta, and he was an openly pacifist against that. Different conflicts around the globe, and something began to happen, right? Plaid Cymru from that point, in the 1950s with Gwynfor Evans, began to align itself with what you might call today solidarity struggles, like global, left-wing global stuff. You know, whatever you think about that, that's where it really comes from, this period, this early period of Gwynfor Evans. I think he was searching for allies, which makes sense. However, there was the crazy fanatical socialist groups and the hardcore Republicans, and he refused to bend to them. Again, more like Hywel Dda, the king in 10th century Wales, who used peace and moderation to drive his enemies within out. And so the Nutters in the Welsh Nationalist movement created the Welsh Republican movement, sort of another party, and all the Nutters went over there. And what it did was it caused all the petty bickering and squabbling to die down in Plaid Cymru. And for normal people who aren't going to listen to this Marxist Nutter stuff and these Republican socialist types, to look at Plaid Cymru and say, they might be decent. And Plaid Cymru began to win elections. It won elections far before, not long before, a couple years before the SNP in Scotland. So Wales had some striking successes under this guy going into the early 1960s, and certainly by the late 1960s, it was emerging as a Welsh force because of this man. Into the 1970s, after the craziness of the 1960s was starting to go, thankfully, these Welsh Republican hard left types began going back into Plaid Cymru, and he was having to fight them within his own party toward the end of the 1970s. However, in 1979, there was a referendum on Wales having just a small bit of home rule. And in this referendum, we voted against home rule. We basically, 3/4 of our population voted against the existence of our country to just be part of Western England. It's embarrassing. It's just a low point, a horrific abyss in the history of our country. It's terrible. And as you can imagine, in the wake of this horrific defeat, Welsh nationalists were at a low point. Gwynfor Evans, I think, did the right thing by holding on, not handing over the leadership all at once. He wanted to steer it in the right direction first, to his credit, and that probably, again, the second time in Gwynfor Evans' history as leader, probably saved the Welsh nationalist movement, because there were two opposite sides fighting over this party now. What had become a soft left, Social Democrats, which people like me, I can kind of hold my nose and vote for a very soft left, centrist, almost social democratic party if it's in the best interest of my country, and especially the Welsh language. And then you had the radical nutter Marxists, and these two collided with each other under two men, both named David Wigley and David Ellis Thomas. The next leader was David Wigley, and I like this guy. He's alright, decent guy. A bit leftist for me, but not so far left that he's crazy. He understands that. And he was having a bit of trouble. His health was failing after a couple years, and it was leading up to the miners' strikes, in which Thatcher got one thing right and one thing terribly wrong. Okay? She was a bit autistic, nothing against autistic people, but she was a bit autistic in how she thought about money and society. She didn't really consider human relationships and social bonds to be an important factor in human society. I know that sounds crazy, but that's what she felt or thought, because she wasn't a conservative. She was a liberal, a hardcore liberal. And so she rightly understood that the mines, the coal mines, all that needed to go. We needed to modernize and find other things, but she didn't want to find other things. If you're going to remove the industry from the valleys, you're going to have to put something in. It would be a great place for jet engine production, or carburetors, or something highly technical requiring welding in industry. Airplanes, cars, it'd be great for that. But she didn't put anything in its place. She just destroyed those communities. And as David Wigley left his leadership, David Ellis Thomas, who had gathered a base of hardcore leftists, took over the party. And they thought that being reactive against Thatcher during this strike would basically win them power, enabling them to sweep Wales. That's not what happened. Labour did. Because that left-wing seat was already taken. Now, a whole wave of people did move into Plaid Cymru, new members, during the 1980s. Names like Leanne Wood, toward the end, I think, and Adam Price, but they certainly were both politicised by this period in the valleys, among many other people. And this would shape Plaid Cymru later, but for the time being, as you would expect when nutter Marxists take over, the vote share of Plaid Cymru went down. Well, people are not stupid. They're not going to vote for Marxism. And so David Wigley came back, and he was a bit more sensible even from last time. Very much more of this social democratic status quo that was sweeping most of Europe and North America at the time. You ever heard of Schroeder in Germany? Blair in England? That type of man. And Welsh nationalism joined that social democratic status quo. Hyper-individualist still, because it was the post-war consensus. But we got our Welsh devolution. We had a second referendum and we won by a hair's breadth. It was great. I mean, if we'd lost that referendum, I don't see how Wales would have survived as a country. We will survive now, even if we lose our Senedd for, God forbid, if we lost our Senedd for a century, we could survive it now because it's re-solidified Welsh identity and actually officialized the Welsh language. And he was leader until 2001. And this was the first one that I kind of got to look at from afar. And, if I had been looking far from America or London into Wales, and I saw hard Marxists ruling it, I would have never even bothered to come here and learn Welsh. I mean, why would you? It's just complete nutters. But David Wigley was sensible. And the guy after him, Ian Jones, is, I think, the best leader that Plaid Cymru has had in my lifetime. He recognized this. There's a wing within Plaid Cymru that just have this visceral hatred of the Tories. It's insane. They don't understand that small c conservatism is the core of what allowed Welsh nationalism to exist in the first place. He almost created an alliance of liberals and conservatives, other parties, to remove Labour from power. He did a lot of good. He helped foment the tide that brung more powers to our then National Assembly, strengthening Welsh character and identity. A bit like Gwynfor in some ways. I like that about him. And he was able to take ground from the Liberal Democrats, the Liberals. That appeals to me, and all was going well, in my opinion. If the party had just kept on that road. But after him, things got a bit crazy. Leanne Wood came to be leader of Plaid Cymru, and she was the polar opposite of Ian Jones in almost every way imaginable. Ian Jones would listen to people, just listen. Not even speaking. Just taking time, sit down with them, and hear them. I mean, the guy was brilliant. Leanne Wood would just talk. Wouldn't listen. Maybe for a couple minutes and then just talk nonstop about social justice, about socialism, about radicalism, all these hyper left-wing views. And what had happened is that period in the 1980s in which David Ellis Thomas took power had injected a whole wave of borderline Marxists into Plaid Cymru. I mean, long term it may have destroyed the party, for me at least. It's riding high in the polls at the moment, but for me, I'm not going to back anything like that. She was in power from 2012 to 2018, and this is an important period. This is when the Brexit referendum happened. And I noticed something. She was using ANC terminology, African National Congress, the party that are basically full-blown post-colonial Marxist nutters and are driving South Africa into the ground. She's intentionally mimicking their language. I went to a hustings, she was constantly saying real independence. Not independence. Real independence. And she actually says what this is. It's socialism. It's progressivism. It's anti-patriarchy gibberish. It's like Jeremy Corbyn type stuff. Speaking of which, she went to an actual march with this guy. I mean, he's an anti-Semite. He's a Marxist. He spent his entire career stabbing his own party of Labour in the back to try and bend it toward alliances with Soviet-era nonsense. And she felt it was appropriate to march with this man as a public figure? No. I wasn't really wanting to stick around in Plaid Cymru at that point. She did understand the importance of democracy, however. The Brexit vote, she and Plaid Cymru of that time rightly understood they had to side with the European side during the vote to be a counterforce, in a way. But they weren't looking at Europe as their ancestors did. They weren't looking at it as the glory of our civilization. The inheritance of Rome and these noble Celtic kings, Europe together, or like Saunders Lewis with the French noblemen and aristocracy. No, they weren't even looking at Europe honestly. They were looking at it as a way to push progressive ideology. And that's not why I backed Europe. I backed it because it's our inheritance as the glory of our civilization, and it's good for business. But the people said no, and Leanne Wood slowly understood that and accepted the vote, even against many in her own party, which I do respect her for that. At least she's a Democrat. Now after her, Adam Price. And I was just hopeful, please, anyone. Maybe they'll be leftist, but maybe they won't be as hard left, radical extremist as that. Adam Price, he came up with some good ideas. He wanted to build a Welsh banking industry. He's very pro-Welsh language. I'm totally behind both of those ideas that he was promoting, and I was very hopeful at the beginning, but soon I saw his worldview was shaped by the 1984-85 miners' strike. He's one of these kids of the 80s who were shaped by this radicalization in reaction to Thatcher. The pro-socialist status quo within the party was not going to change, and so it's like, I'll back off. So I'll back off, I said, and I'll have to wait for the next leader of Plaid Cymru before I can actually see if I can support this again. Now, I'm not going to go into why Adam Price had to leave. He left quite quickly, and it was under questionable circumstances. I respect him enough to not go into his personal life. That's his own business. But he left quite quickly. And Llyr Griffith became acting leader. At first for this man in 2023? Yes. I was hopeful. Early 2023 this was. And I was very hopeful because he's more tilted towards the Yea and Wyn Jones side of the party. Yes, he's a bit too social democratic for me, but I could probably, if he was leader, and depending on how he would lead things, I could potentially consider holding my nose and voting for Wales rather than this party if it wasn't He gave up the reins. He didn't want it. I thought that was sad. There was an opportunity lost. He was sensible. I like him. But Hrinaphorwerth won. He became leader in 2023, later in that year. I was hopeful again, because he's very good at presentation. He worked in the BBC in London, so he appears moderate and sensible. But I came to see quite quickly he's of this technocratic class, this pro-globalization, just open borders, all of that really in our age in the 2020s, that's what every Western country, what we're fighting against. That's the status quo. And then, within the first year of his leadership, the attack by jihadi militants on Israel, 7th of October, happened. Hrinaphorwerth realized quite quickly and astutely that a huge part of his base within the party were anti-Israel, anti-Western, anti-Jewish. Yeah, okay. So he went with it. And I think a lot of the group who support that in Plaid Cymru is that wave of people who came into Plaid Cymru during the 1980s. And now that has effective control over the party. He's latched on, Hrinaphorwerth's latched on to this Palestine issue, which is an extension of all these other anti-West issues that are Marxist coded. And I'm just not going to support that. In addition, he's talking about potential coalition with the Greens. I mean, this party scares me. These people are radical, like Islamo-Marxist, full on. They want to criminalize Zionism. What do you think Judaism is? I pray towards Jerusalem 3 times a day for the rebuilding. That's literally Zionism. And he would be in league with Lucifer, essentially, the Greens. That they're about as evil as it gets. So I hope you see that Plaid Cymru has gone through several changes in its history. Christian nationalism with understanding the glory of our European civilization. Drifting more into Christian nationalism, but slowly through that, opening into a proto-socialist, small c conservatism fusion in the wake of World War II, which was the dominant status quo for decades. But at the loss of that status quo, not the loss of Gwynfor Evans at that point, I mean, he lived to see, thankfully, the establishment of our National Assembly in 1999. I'm glad he saw it. But when he stepped down, the party basically broke into 2 fighting factions through the 1980s, with the Social Democratic side coming on top in the upper echelons, but the crazy lunatic Marxists holding the base, and then coming back up after a couple Social Democratic leaders, and then a leader who looked more like David Wigley, Hrinaphorwerth, appearing to be more Social Democratic, but not. So they've taken on the face of the social democracy with the belief system and attitudes of the lunatic Marxists. So it's quite a wolf in sheep's clothing. And so I came to this country for Welsh nationalism, for the Welsh language. I love it. I want a Welsh-speaking Wales. But if they're geared more towards this Marxist ideology, this oppressor-oppressed victim, which, the P word, progressivism, progressive, that kind of stuff, that leaves me outside of Welsh nationalism. I'm not going to support what is essentially what our civilization in the West is in a spiritual struggle to fight against. So what's next? I've thought about Israel. Do I move to Israel? I don't think so. But what about this channel? It's going to keep going, but as you may have noticed over the last few videos, I need to do other things, and so this is the format is changing. It's more talking like this. Let me know what you would like a video on in a talking like this sense. I'm studying Chinese, and I'm studying ITAR, International Traffic of Arms Regulations, as I'm potentially changing careers away from Welsh and that kind of related stuff into American weapons exports, so that I can fund other things in the future, potentially using my Chinese or setting up my own portfolios or business. And this channel will keep going. But I wanted you to see that Welsh nationalism has changed, and it's changed without me. So I have to find a new path, and I'm not in the mind that I'll be making a lot more of the Welsh documentary type stuff. I'm sorry if that disappoints some of you, but if Welsh nationalism is going down that road, I'm just not interested anymore.